Hi, I'm Johnny from Happy Valley Ranch. Today we'll be installing a motor kit on our Homesteader apple cider press. If you have this press already and would like to install a motor kit on it, this is the process you'll go through. If you bought it new with a motor kit, there's some of the stuff you'll see me do that you will not have to do. So we'll get started installing a motor kit. First thing you want to do, if you already have it, is remove your flywheel. Undo the set screw. Remove the flywheel. Next, you're going to have to remove the grinder from the press in order to mount the bearings for your motor kit. So, be very careful. This thing is a little heavy. Undo your bolts. I suggest you get some help with this. You can do it yourself. It's a lot easier if you have help. Be patient with it. I do this a bunch, so be patient with it and you'll get it. Okay, now that we have the grinder removed, we're going to set it on a flat surface like a table, something like that. You do the same because installing the bearings is a slow process and they have to be done accurate. Okay, when installing the bearings onto your grinder, you'll have a 3/8 by 3.5 inch carriage bolt. The holes in the backboard are pre-drilled. Make sure that your bearings, when you slide them on the shaft, the lock for the bearing is to the outside. Slide it on. You'll put your 3/8 bolt in there. Once your bolt's in there, next is a 3/8 washer. A 3/8 nut. Another 3/8 nut. This is a slow process, so just take your time. Another 3/8 washer. And then a 1/2 inch washer. Once you have it up there will be another 3/8 washer and another 3/8 nut. The process for all these bolts are the same. The bottom hole will be the same way. The 3/8 by 3.5 inch carriage bolt, 3/8 washer, .3/8 nut, another 3/8 nut, another 3/8 washer, a 1/2 inch washer, another 3/8 washer, a 3/8 nut. That is what it should look like when you get through. In your instructions, it will show just how this is. Okay, we're going to turn it to the side. We'll get a look at the other side. Again, make sure you're locking your lock and with your set screws is to the outside. A 3/8 by 3.5 inch carriage bolt. A 3/8 washer. A 3/8 nut. Another 3/8 nut. A 3/8 washer. A 1/2 inch washer. This is a slow process, so just take your time. You shouldn't have any trouble. Once you get it through the hole in the bearing, will be another 3/8 washer and another nut. Repeat the process for the bottom one. 3/8 bolt, 3/8 washer, 3/8 nut, another 3/8 nut, three-eighths washer, a 1/2 inch washer, once you get the bolt through the hole in the bearing, another 3/8 washer, another 3/8 nut. That's what it should look like when you get through installing the nuts, bolts, and washers. Okay, once you have these bolts and nuts installed to hold the bearings, the next step would be tightening the first nut. Then we can go to the bottom one. This is all a crucial step in this. Do all four sides first. The process is going to be the same for each one of them. Make sure all your other nuts and bolts are loose as you're tightening these. Now comes the critical part. As you're tightening up the remainder of these nuts and bolts, always spin this shaft to make sure you do not have it in a bind. You can tighten them one at a time, constantly turning your shaft to make sure you don't have it in a bind. Repeat the same process for the bottom one. Constantly turning your shaft. You may have to adjust this several times. Constantly turning to make sure that your shaft is spinning freely. Do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Constantly spinning your shaft to make sure that it spins freely. And there you have it. The process is the same for every nut and bolt on here. Just make sure as you're tightening, you're constantly spinning so that you have no binds in your shaft. And that's installing the bearings. Now we will install the grinder back on the frame. Now we're going to attach the grinder back to the frame. This can be done with one person, but it's nice to have some help. These are all 5/16 here. Tighten her back up using a 1/2-inch wrench, socket, whichever one you prefer to use. Okay. Our next step is you will need to remove your tub, or you may have it already out of the way. You'll have two 3/8 by 4-inch carriage bolts that go in the holes that are pre-drilled in the side of the leg. So we will mount the motor. It's not hard to do. All these holes are pre-drilled. They should slide right on. Using a 9/16, you can use a wrench, a socket, whatever you prefer to use. There you have your motor installed. Next, we will install the flywheel. The first divot in this shaft where you removed your cast iron wheel, this one will go in the same spot. Make sure that your set screw is in that little divot securely and tighten. That's just the way it will look. Then we'll install a 26-inch belt. Put it on your smaller pulley on the motor. Turn. This motor is adjustable forward and backwards. You can loosen these, adjust it, tighten it down. You want to be able to move your belt a 1/2 inch. That's good and snug. Next, we'll install the belt guard. There's 2 holes in the belt guard. It goes just this way. It has 2 drywall screws that go in the back. You'll see. And that is the motor kit for your Homesteader.